My name's Aidan. I'm 32, single, no kids, and apparently, according to my family, the helper type. Not the heir, not the legacy, not the golden child. Just the guy who keeps the lights on. It all really began unraveling last Sunday. The whole family was gathered at my parents' place for dinner. The same mismatched chairs around the table, the same overcooked roast chicken, the same way they always acted like I'd just be there, quiet, predictable, dependable. My brother, Caleb, was in fine form as usual. Loud, full of himself, spinning some story about how hard it was to get time off from the firm, even though everyone knew he worked remote and took more vacations than meetings. But still, my parents hung on every word like he was the second coming of Elon Musk. We were halfway through dessert, store-bought pie, my treat, of course, when my dad casually leaned back in his chair, wiped his mouth with a paper napkin, and said, "By the way, we updated the will last week. Everything's going to Caleb." Just like that. No lead-up, no explanation. Like he was mentioning the weather. I blinked. Everything. Dad nodded. It just makes sense. He's the one carrying the family name. You're not married. No kids. You understand. I stared at him. Then at my mom. She didn't look up from her plate. Just nodded and said, "You've always been more of a helper than a real heir, sweetheart. You're great with details. That's your strength." There was no malice in her voice. Just that breezy, matter-of-fact tone that people use when they're explaining why your job got outsourced. I felt like I wasn't even at the table anymore, like I was just some background staffer, taking notes at a board meeting about my own life. Nobody mentioned how I'd quietly stepped in last month to cover their mortgage payment when they were between checks. Nobody brought up the $2,000 I dropped on repairs when Caleb's transmission blew out and he forgot his wallet. Or the way I've been paying their car insurance every month for over a year now, because it's just temporary. Aidan, you know how tight things are right now. I didn't say anything. I just smiled, nodded, asked if anyone wanted more pie. That night, I went home and opened every account I'd ever connected to their lives. Mortgage autopay? Canceled. Insurance? Disabled. Caleb's shared Spotify family plan that I paid for, and he never even thanked me for? Gone. I even pulled my name from the joint emergency fund I started after Mom's health scare. Something she said gave her peace of mind. By Tuesday, I got a text from Mom. Did the payment bounce? The bank called. I ignored it. Wednesday, another one from Caleb. Dude, did you cancel the car insurance? Still ignored it. Thursday, my dad sent an email with the subject line, "Important," and no greeting. Just a screenshot of their overdue electric bill and a note that said, "This needs to be handled ASAP." By Friday morning, Caleb called me 3 times. Then texted, "Power's out. Dad's losing it. You better answer." I didn't. Not out of spite. Not entirely, anyway. See, for most of my life, I didn't mind being the helper. I liked making things easier for the people I loved. I was good at handling problems, staying calm, thinking ahead. But somewhere along the line, that turned into being invisible, into being expected. They leaned on me so hard they forgot I was a person, forgot I had limits, that I could get tired too. And when I finally heard what they really thought, that I was just the supporting character in their golden boy's legacy, it was like something cracked clean open inside me. Not anger, not at first. Just this eerie calm. The kind you get before a storm. Like realizing you've been holding your breath for 10 years and finally letting it out. So no, I didn't pick up. I let the silence speak for me. And by the time Saturday rolled around, they weren't just trying to reach me, they were scrambling. That morning, I got a message from my aunt, one of the few relatives who actually treats me like a person. "Just got off the phone with your mom. She's in tears. What's going on over there?" I didn't respond to my aunt's message. Not because I didn't like her, she's always been decent to me, but because I knew how fast word would spread once I said anything. And I wasn't ready yet. Not until everything had landed. Saturday afternoon, I went to the gym like I always did. Routine. Normal. Except my phone was vibrating nonstop in the locker. 8 missed calls. 14 texts. Most of them from Caleb, and the tone had shifted from demanding to panicked. "You need to fix this," he wrote. "Dad says we're going to lose the house insurance if the payment doesn't clear by Monday. What are you trying to do, man?" There it was. Not "can we talk" or "I'm sorry." Just more commands. Still treating me like the family IT department, financial advisor, and janitor rolled into one. I showered. I left my phone on Do Not Disturb. And I went to sleep early. Sunday morning, I took my time. Made coffee. Cleaned the apartment. I even watered the plants on the balcony. I didn't check my messages until noon, And when I finally opened my phone, it was worse than I expected. Apparently, the insurance company had officially flagged them for non-payment. They were on the hook for late fees on the mortgage. The power was still off because they hadn't paid the past due amount in full. Caleb's car had been towed over unpaid tickets he never mentioned to me, because, surprise, I was the one who used to keep track of those too. And the kicker? My dad called me. Called, not texted. Which meant things were officially falling apart. I let it ring out. Then he left a voicemail. Aidan, I don't know what's going on, but your mother is upset, and I don't have time for whatever game you're playing. This is your family. You're being selfish, and frankly, it's disappointing. You need to step up and fix this. I just stared at my phone. That tone. That same condescending tone I've heard since I was a teenager. Like I was being difficult for asking to be included. Like I was always one notch below Caleb because he played sports and dated cheerleaders and eventually slapped his name on a company that someone else built. And then it hit me. He didn't even see me. He didn't say what happened. Or can we talk? He didn't ask why I was hurting. Just told me to fix what I broke. Like I was the power grid. Like I was the one malfunctioning. I saved the voicemail. Not to hold it over him. Just as a reminder. Because in that moment, something inside me settled. This wasn't going to be a quick revenge story. This was going to be a complete reset. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want a seat at their table anymore. I was building my own. But I wanted them to feel the gap I left behind. To finally understand that the helper was the foundation. That all the things they took for granted, every silent solution, every quietly covered bill, every fixed problem before it reached them, came from me. And now, it was gone. Sunday evening, I got a text from my mom. I don't know what's happening, but your father is furious and Caleb is stressed. Please just tell me what this is about. I typed out a message. Paused. Deleted it. Instead, I sent a screenshot of the will update email Caleb forwarded to me months ago when he thought it was funny. His message back then had just said, LOL, guess I win. I sent that screenshot with no caption. Then I turned off my phone. On Monday, the real fallout started. Their internet provider removed service for non-payment. Caleb's company credit card was declined while trying to book a flight. My mom called me again. I let it ring. I knew what was coming next. A house of cards only looks stable until the wind hits it. And I was done being the glue. But I wasn't done yet. Because while they were busy putting out fires, they hadn't even realized the biggest one was still on the way. It had to do with the house. The deed. And a quiet little detail they never paid attention to because they assumed the helper didn't read the fine print. But I always did. Always. And now? They were going to learn what it felt like to be left out. The house they lived in, the one I'd bailed out more times than I could count, had a history. It was my grandparents' house, originally. When they passed, my dad inherited it, but at the time, they were drowning in medical debt and had maxed out almost every credit line they had just keeping afloat. I was 25 when I stepped in. I just landed my first real job with a salary that felt enormous at the time. I didn't hesitate. I offered to help refinance the house under better terms. What they didn't realize, or maybe they did and just forgot, was that when we finalized the deal, I became a partial owner. Not a co-signer. Not a guarantor. A co-owner. They were so relieved, so grateful, when I showed up with my suit jacket and pen at the closing table. My dad even clapped me on the back and said, "Look at our responsible one, always coming through." And then they never brought it up again. It just became another quiet task Aidan had handled. Another emergency smoothed over, forgotten like a fire that never scorched the floor. But I didn't forget. And while they were frantically texting me about insurance bills and Caleb's frozen accounts, I was sitting in my office rereading the deed, scanning it like I'd done so many times over the years. My name was still there, legally binding, undeniable. And the best part? Because of the way it was filed, any major decisions, like refinancing again, or selling, or even taking out an equity loan, required my signature, which meant the home they just assumed Caleb would inherit one day, the one they'd basically claimed belonged to the real heir, it wasn't fully theirs to give. I didn't act on it right away. Instead, I waited for the next dinner invite. Sure enough, it came Thursday night from Mom. Dinner this Sunday? Just us. We want to talk. No apology. No mention of the will. Just, we want to talk. Like I was a wayward employee being summoned for a performance review. I showed up, not out of obligation, but to watch it all play out in person. The house was dim, still no proper lighting in half the rooms. A dusty lamp on the hallway table flickered. The air was stuffy, probably because they hadn't had working AC all week. When Mom opened the door, she forced a smile. Dad nodded at me like we were negotiating a ceasefire. Caleb was already seated at the table, arms crossed, face tight. I sat across from him, calm. Dinner was rushed. Pasta with Jared sauce, barely warm. No one asked how I was doing. No one thanked me for coming. They just danced around the tension like it wasn't sitting right there between the breadsticks and the Parmesan shaker. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. Listen, we've had a rough week, obviously. And it's become clear that there's been some miscommunication. Caleb snorted. Yeah, like how you went nuclear because of a will, Aidan. Seriously. I tilted my head. You mean the one that cuts me out of everything? That will. Dad held up a hand like he was trying to play mediator. No one's cutting you out of anything. That was a draft. We just hadn't gotten around to discussing it with you. I gave a small laugh. You discussed it just fine. At dinner. Right after pie. Silence. Mom finally jumped in. Sweetheart, we just met. You don't have children. You're not married. We assumed Caleb would need the support more long term. Oh, I said, voice even. So my role is just to support. Keep the lights on, fix things, disappear quietly. No one said that, Dad muttered. You did, I replied. And for the record, this house? It's not just yours. They froze. Caleb blinked. What? I pulled a folded copy of the deed from my jacket pocket, placed it on the table. You might want to read the fine print. My mom reached for it with trembling fingers. My dad leaned in. Caleb didn't touch it, just looked between us like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. I've been paying for this place since I was 25, I said. I refinanced it to save you from foreclosure. I didn't ask for credit, but I am a legal owner, which means if you want to sell it, borrow against it, even transfer it, you need my consent. Still no one spoke. So I kept going. And since I'm apparently just the helper, you'll need to find someone else to co-sign on any future loans or handle overdue bills. Because I'm done. Fully done. And if you decide to keep this house, then you'll be maintaining it on your own. Property taxes included. Caleb stood up, fist clenched. You're such a child, Aidan. This is family. We're supposed to help each other. I turned to him, slowly. You mean the way I helped you with your car? Or your phone bill? Or Mom and Dad's mortgage? Or all the years I paid for Christmas dinner and didn't say a word while you showed up with empty hands? He said nothing. Then I turned to Dad. You wanted to leave a legacy. You already had one. But you didn't recognize it because it didn't look like you. The silence was so thick it was almost physical. I stood up, slid my chair in slowly. No hard feelings, I said. I just finally realized I'm not part of this family the way you all are with each other. And I'm done pretending I am. I walked toward the door, my footsteps the only sound in the room. And just as I reached for the handle, I heard my mom's voice, small, cracking. Aidan, what are you going to do? I paused, turned back slightly, and said, I guess we'll find out. Then I walked out and left them with the truth still echoing in that dim, flickering room. I didn't hear from them for 2 days. After that dinner, I figured one of them, probably Mom, would call with some emotional plea, or maybe Caleb would send a long, condescending text trying to clear the air. But nothing came, and that silence told me everything I needed to know. They were still trying to decide how much of what I said was a bluff, how much control I really had. They'd spent years seeing me as the background player, the assistant, the extra, the guy behind the curtain keeping everything stitched together. The idea that I held leverage, that I could walk away and take half the structure down with me, it wasn't just inconvenient. It was unthinkable to them. But I didn't need to bluff, because I knew exactly how fragile their setup was without me. And it didn't take long before they found out too. By Thursday, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize, local area code. I let it go to voicemail. Turns out it was the mortgage officer. The message was clipped but professional. Mr. Grant, we've been made aware there's some confusion about authorization on the Henderson property. Just confirming you're still co-owner and haven't consented to the requested refinancing. I called her back that afternoon, calm as anything, and said, that's correct. I haven't authorized anything. I also won't be signing off on any changes. She thanked me, asked for a written confirmation, and said they'd be halting everything until further notice. An hour later, Caleb called. This time I picked up. What are you doing? His voice was sharp, like he'd been waiting all day to scream. Hi, Caleb, I said lightly. To what do I owe the pleasure? Don't play dumb, he snapped. You told the bank you're blocking the refinance? That was the plan to catch up on the bills. You mean the plan that no one ran by me? I said, You can't make plans with assets you don't fully own. That's not how it works. You're punishing all of us, he said, because of one dinner conversation. No, I said, my tone cooling. I'm stepping back from a system where I was used. There's a difference. You're being dramatic. And you're being entitled, I said, finally letting the edge into my voice. I didn't do this to get back at you. I did this because I realized I've spent 10 years solving problems for a family that never once treated me like part of it. There was silence on the other end. You want the house? I continued. Buy me out. I'll even sell below market value, to be generous. But if you think you're going to keep it and freeze me out of decisions, that ends now. He hung up. The next morning, I got a call from Mom. She didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She just sounded tired. Aidan, she said, I don't know what's happening to us. I didn't say anything. I've been thinking about what you said. About being the helper. About the way we've leaned on you. Still, I waited. I think we all got comfortable. You never complained. And, well, I guess we assumed you didn't mind. That you liked being in the background. I didn't mind helping, I said. But I never signed up to be invisible. Her voice cracked. You're not invisible. Yes, I am, I said softly. You just don't notice until something breaks. She didn't argue. That silence said more than any apology could have. Then she asked, what do you want us to do? And that's when I realized, for the first time, they were actually listening. Not deflecting. Not minimizing. Listening. So I told her the truth. I want boundaries, I said. Clear ones. No more calls about bills. No more requests to bail someone out. If I help, it's because I choose to, not because I'm expected to. She was quiet. And the will. I added, it's your choice what you do with your estate. But don't insult me by pretending I was never part of the legacy. If you're writing me out, be honest. If not, fix it. She promised they'd talk. And for the first time, I actually believed her. Weeks passed. I didn't rush back into things. I didn't start paying bills again or answering every message. I went about my life. Focused on work. Reconnected with friends I'd neglected because I was always busy putting out family fires. I even took a solo trip to Lisbon. First vacation in years where I didn't have to check my email for someone else's emergencies. Then, in early spring, I got a certified letter from the family's attorney. Inside was a copy of the revised will. It was simple, split evenly between Caleb and me. No favoritism, no qualifiers, just fairness. Attached was a handwritten note from Dad. Aidan, we were wrong. I was wrong. You've done more for this family than any of us have acknowledged. That changes now, not because of guilt, but because you deserve it. Thank you for showing us what you were holding up, even when we didn't look. Dad, I sat with that for a while. Let it soak in. And yeah, I cried a little. Not because I needed their money or their apology, but because after a lifetime of being treated like the spare, I'd finally stood my ground. And they finally saw me. We're not perfect now. We'll probably never be. Caleb's still Caleb, still a little arrogant, still learning that life doesn't revolve around him. But he respects me now. We talk. It's not deep yet, but it's something. Mom and Dad have pulled back too. They don't ask me to fix things anymore, not without asking if I want to. Sometimes I say yes. Sometimes I say no. But it's always my choice. And the house. I sold my share. Not out of spite. Just freedom. They bought me out, and with that money, I put a down payment on my own place. My own home. Not inherited. Not shared. Mine. It's quiet here. Peaceful. Sometimes too quiet. But it's the first time in my life I've had a space that didn't come with someone else's needs baked into the walls. Sometimes I walk through the rooms and think about everything I gave. All the pieces of myself I poured into people who never said thank you. But mostly, I think about the moment I stopped waiting to be valued and chose, instead, to value myself. That was the day everything changed. And I've never looked back.